Welcome to Breathe Through It with Monique Pressley. Information and inspiration to help you breathe better through life. Go ahead, take a deep breath. You're in the breathing room. Good morning and welcome to Instinct Monday on Breathe Through It with Monique Pressley. I'm Monique Pressley, your host for the hour, and I simply could not be more excited to bring you today's guest, Bishop T.D. Jakes. His new book, Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive, is topping lists and taking this world by storm. We've seen Bishop Jakes discussing Instinct on Oprah's Life Class. He shared the principles on Dr. Phil, The Steve Harvey Show, on Arsenio Hall. But today, he's in the breathing room, and I'm full of joy to be able to share this experience with you. So, get ready, get ready, get ready. We're going to bring you an excerpt from Bishop Jakes' teaching on instinct. And then right after that, I'll be back with Bishop T.D. Jakes.
The Spirit knows you. The Spirit knows you. Come on, say the Spirit knows you. So we got to get down to peeling away the camouflages. Getting rid of all the stuff. My God, I had them bring me this apple up here because I'm going to do some peeling. Because if you don't do it, life will. It'll peel away all the things you put on to protect you from people. Little by little, struggle by struggle, test by test, God said, I'm going to peel you away from all of that pretending and acting and putting on and insecurity and faking and hiding who you are and hiding how you feel and hiding how you think. God said, I don't recognize that. The Lord knoweth them that are his. God said, I'm going to keep on peeling away all of your externals. And the reason I'm peeling it away, because I'm peeling what I cannot plant. I am peeling what I cannot plant. I got to get through all of this stuff, all of this stuff I got, all this religion, all this form, all this insecurity, all this pettiness, that little boy in you, that little girl in you, that need to be recognized, that need to impress people. God said, I'm going to cut all of that away. I'm going to break your heart over and over and over again until I get to something that I can plant. I can't plant none of that. I don't need your talent. I don't need your degrees. I don't need how cute you are, because none of it has any life in it. I'm going to get past your charisma. I'm going to get past your personality. I'm going to get you all the way down, down, down. It's coming down, 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 till I hit something that has life in it, till I hit something that's real, till I hit something that's true, till I hit something I can, oh my God, I see a seed. I'm about to get to something that I can build a ministry out of. I can build a business. I can build a church if I can find you in all of that mess you got on top of you. This is the part that gives life, and that's the only part that I want.
I am on the phone with Bishop T.D. Jakes. He is the senior pastor of the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas. He is preacher, teacher extraordinaire, author 33 times over now, and just a blessing in general to all of us. We are all blessed to be in this world and on this earth at the same time as Bishop T.D. Jakes, and he's here with us today to talk about this New York Times best-selling book, number one on the New York Times bestsellers list, Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. Welcome, Bishop Jakes.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you, Monique.
Well, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm just tickled pink, blessed, upside down with joy because you know what, Bishop Jakes, just as I've been saying to any and everyone who listens to my radio show every day that we try to help people breathe better, to take in the breath not just of oxygen but of the Spirit of the living God. And following your ministry has helped me to breathe better. It's brought the little girl from Texas out and enabled her to flourish and shine. And as I was preparing for today, I looked at the beginning of my book where I prepare all my messages, all the sermons, all the interviews, and the very first thing from this year was leadership class with Bishop Jakes when you were here for New Year's revival, and I was way in the bleachers listening to the Saturday class, and that was my first touch of instinct and why our instincts are so important. So let's start in the jungle. How is it that you came to want to write this book?
I was in South Africa, as you said. I was in the jungle. I have been invited to South Africa to speak to the first group of black billionaires after the apartheid invited me over to do an economic empowerment summit. Mm-hmm. And one of the perks that they gave us was to go on a safari at the end of my speaking. So my wife and I and my son went out to stay at J. Paul Getty's house in the middle of the jungle. And my son and I, my wife elected not to go, went on a safari with us. And the safari was conducted by a zoologist who was incredibly knowledgeable about the animals, the ecosystem, the natural habitat, their instinctive behaviors, mating practices, all kinds of wonderful information about the various animals, right down to the shape of their teeth and how they prune the branches when they bite them in such a way that the branch will continue to flourish after the animal has eaten. The amazing forethought that God put into the creative process. And as he was educating us about that, we were witnessing the lions and the zebras and all of that. I wanted to see the elephants. He had explained them to me in great detail, but we couldn't find them. He could explain them, but we couldn't find them. The Zulu, who said absolutely nothing the whole time, the Zulu had been completely quiet, finally stood up and said, "The elephants are over there." And when he said that, something ignited in my spirit because suddenly I realized that I was sitting in between intellect and instinct. The zoologist could explain it, but the Zulu could find it. And I went on to really evaluate throughout my life and my career how intellect may inform our decisions, but instinct really enables us to find what intellect has informed us about. And I like to say it this way, that intellect may load the gun, but instincts pull the trigger. And if you're going to hit the target in life and be who you were created to be, that God has pre-wired us to do certain things. He told Jeremiah, before I formed thee in the belly, not when you came to me, not when you accepted me, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, I ordained thee, and I sanctified thee to be. And I think every person has a responsibility to find out what they were created to be.
Right. And I've heard you say before how intellect gets us to a certain point, but then we do need that instinct, especially for pulling the trigger. And the thing that occurred to me as I was thinking about this was I need my own instinct to pull the trigger on my own gun. I can't use my sister's instinct for that. And I heard you saying how we go through that in life. I think it was when we were in Pastors and Leaderships Conference, and you were talking about how people will really want us to be what we've always been or what they desire for us to be to fit into their lives. How do we get out of that mold, Bishop, where we're waiting for someone else to tell us to pull the trigger, or we're off in another part of the world doing things that have nothing to do with what our own instinct or our own drive or our core purpose is about?
One thing is we have to get away from people who will not allow us to evolve.
Right.
Imagine if we asked the butterfly to be a silkworm again. Just because he was a silkworm when we met him, it takes away from the fact that he's been in a cocoon what I talk about in the book as a dark place. Most people have gone through some dark place, some sort of cocoon that incubates the greater instinct and the higher purpose. In other words, that's where you get your wings in dark places and lonely places. And once you get those wings and evolve into the next dimension of who you are, don't allow people to keep you clinging to a leaf when you've got wings to fly in the air.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And sometimes I remember you talking about how it takes a certain period of time, even once we get out of the cocoon, for our wings to be able to work. And it would seem that's a very precarious time where we have to have the right kinds of people around us. Can you talk to us about people we're looking for? If we're trying to follow our instincts, who should we be surrounding ourselves with?
Well, you're very right about that. After the butterfly comes out of the cocoon, it's generally several hours before their wings work. And sometimes you are suited for an area that you haven't matured enough to go into just yet. Like David was anointed to be king, but he was sent back out into the field to feed sheep. Though he was anointed to be king, he had not yet been appointed to be king. And so there are people who are anointed for places that they have not been appointed to as yet. And in that waiting process, I think one of the things that helps us so much is to be around somebody who is more advanced in the area than we are, and to let them model the behavior that we hope to become. Because if we don't have the right model, in the book I talk about a German police dog that was pregnant and hit by a car and drug her hind legs the rest of her life. She birthed puppies, and when the puppies were born, because the mother drug her hind legs, the puppies did too. There was nothing wrong with their legs, but there was something wrong with their model. And some of us have suffered because we have been aspiring to the wrong model. We have been exposed to the wrong model, and sometimes we are looking at parents or our community or our neighborhood or whoever we admire to give us guidance in an area that they might be crippled. And to understand that they are crippled and not to always model people who are dysfunctional will help you to be much more functional.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a moment with more from Bishop T.D. Jakes.
God's going to use your dark place for his glory. God's going to use your dark place for his glory. And I know some of you are writing it down, but as soon as you write it down, I want you to overcome by your testimony. Tell your neighbor, God's going to use your dark place for his glory. Babies are conceived in a dark place. Seeds are planted in a dark place. The earth was restored from a dark place. Eve was born from Adam's dark place. He was asleep. Moses was hidden in a dark place. Elijah was restored in a dark place. Paul wrote the epistles from a dark place. Angels shook the prison from a dark place. Jesus redeemed the world from a dark place. Penicillin was discovered in a dark place. Caterpillars gestate, turn into butterflies from a dark place. Saddam Hussein was captured from a dark place. Ray Charles performed from a dark place. Stevie Wonder sang from a dark place. To all of the people in this room who are in a dark place, you are in the best place you can be when you are in a dark place. To all of you who have been suffering and saying, how long am I going to be in this dark place? God sent me here to teach this class to you. You're not getting bitter, you're getting better. You're not getting weaker, you're getting stronger. When God brings you out of hiding, he's going to show the world the wondrous glory that he has in your life. Glory to God. Touch somebody and tell them, this dark place is working for my good. It taught me I could survive without you. It taught me I could make it without you. It taught me how to rely on my own faith It taught me I could survive without my friends and my support system. It taught me that I didn't have to have you to get where I'm trying to go. So when I come out of this, I will not be emailing you a thank you note because you did not do this. The Lord did it.
And we're back. If you're just joining us, we are in the breathing room today with Bishop T.D. Jakes, author of Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. So I remember there's a part in the book, and I took a note of it, where you're talking about that, but you're saying that, you know, whether we're in the boutique, the banquet hall, the boardroom, that our instincts are that which can't be taught. But there has to be, it seems like now, an unlayering. And, of course, I have pictures in my head of you peeling away that apple to get to the core. For people who have spent just the better part of their adult lives functioning, off of the peelings of life, what do we do? Where does the process start for us to get down to that which can be planted and grow?
If you don't cut to the core like an apple, if you don't cut to the core, you will rot to the core.
My God.
One way or the other. You can only be fruitful when you get to the core. What are your core values? What are you about? Not your morals now. What are your core values? And I used to not know that there was a distinction between morals, which we all aspire to be as moral as possible. But your core values are the things that you care most about. For example, one of my core values is loyalty. It's something that I just have a great deal of respect for, and it's certainly something that's important to me as I choose employees and choose friends and what have you. I don't care how talented you are. If you're not loyal, it just doesn't work for me. What are your core values? What's at your core? What's at the core of the causes you care about? What are the things that you are passionate about? Because if you work in the area that you are passionate, you'll never work a day in your life because you're doing what's organic to you and what's natural to you, and you never get off work because you never went to work. You're just being you. And I think we are much better. See, God designed the fish to function in the ocean. He designed the birds to function in the air. He designed the worm to function in the ground. And a lot of us are designed to function in an atmosphere that we have not entered into yet. So instinct says to the bird, you are best in the air. To the fish, you are best in the water. To the worm, you are best in the ground. And I'm asking people, what environment are you best in? And when you find yourself in that environment, that's where you invest, that's where you focus, that's where you read, that's where you galvanize friends around. You don't want to have friends in the ocean while you're in the air. You want to be surrounded by people who flourish in the atmosphere that you have instinctively been drawn to.
Well, once you're figuring those things out, we have plenty of people, Bishop, who listen to the show who are here in the DMV and the District Metropolitan area in Virginia, working in government jobs, sitting at a cubicle every day, or listening right now, working on their laptops, and they're dreaming of what you're talking about, of being able to be in an environment that's instinctive to them. But I've also heard you say we all have to sometimes do things we don't want to do in order to get there. What's that transition like, and what do you suggest for people who are someplace they know they don't want to be but need to be there a little bit longer?
Well, if you can work in the field of your dreams, Ruth was gleaning in a field that she later would own. Denzel Washington was running vacuum cleaning. Denzel Washington was running vacuum cleaners in a theater that he would ultimately end up acting and performing in. You don't have to get the most prestigious seat to get in the atmosphere with people who are doing what you want to do. Find out what they think. Find out what is hard about it. Find out what people don't see on the stage, so that when you get in that atmosphere, not only are you attracted to the part you're attracted to, but you're also prepared for the things that you didn't know goes along with being in that area. And to your demographic, if you are called to be a president, you may end up being in some subordinate role. You may be a secretary. You may be an assistant. but assisting people to reach their dream helps put you in the field of your dreams as well.
Amen. 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 And I know there's a whole section in your book that's on instinctive leadership and instinctive leadership styles, so people can go. That's one of the things I have to say is amazing about the book, Bishop Jakes, because I think now probably across settings, if I would count Pastors in Leadership Conference, watching the webcast, being in the leadership class, PISCA, I've seen so many different demonstrations for this body of work. But then when you go to the book, it's a completely different thing. I mean, it's in so much more depth and detail. So I just want to encourage people, if you think you've heard Bishop because you're watching him on TV or at the class, you need to dig into the book because you'll get really a manual there for the way to walk these things out. And one of the things that sticks with me is the concept of the lion and the cage. Bishop, what do you do when you're your own Pharaoh, when you're your own jailer? Because I know all the gates are open, but what do you say to the people who may not recognize you're the one with the key?
Well, I think most of us don't recognize that we have the key, that we have the power within ourselves to get out of the cage that we're in and to roam in the wild of our possibilities and potentials. Well, like the lion who was born in the zoo, sometimes we accept our environment as if that were the only place we could exist, when in fact our instincts are calling us beyond the cage. And one of the things that helps us to break out, because so many people are pacing around in a cage, in a job that's frustrating them, in a circle, in a neighborhood, in a community that's frustrating them, and they feel entrapped. But this book is about empowering you to understand that you do have the power within yourself to move beyond the parameters of where you started. And I think people need permission sometimes to access the opportunities that are available to them, because so many people who are caged are surrounded by caged animals who celebrate the entrapment, and they only like you until you move out from them. And when you start moving out, they feel like you've broken a law. They want you to stay with them. But the funny thing about being a leader is you have to, if you're going to be a leader, you have to be prepared to be lonely, because you can't run with the pack and still lead the game.
Oh my.
You have to decide whether you want to be accepted or whether you want to accelerate. And if you want to accelerate, sometimes you do that at the expense of being accepted. It is interesting that people like Dr. King are celebrated more in posterity than they were in real time. When Dr. King led the civil rights movement, there were no Martin Luther King Boulevards. There were no pictures of Dr. King hanging around in facilities. Post-mortem, everybody got it. But in real time, you have to be prepared to do what you were created to do in the midst of critics and controversy, and maintain your focus and keep going.
And I remember hearing you say revelation will always bring separation, and that really is what this is about, because you can't be, as you said, where you were and be who you are, who you were and who you are at the same time. So we have to decide. We have to make a decision.
You're exactly right, Monique. And one of the things that I've been teaching my church these concepts since the first of the year, and I started with transformation. And transformation, according to Romans 1 and 2, that we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. Once you get a new mind, your life reflects the mind you have. You can't get a new life if you've got an old mind. So you're transformed in your thinking. And when you're transformed in your thinking, then you're transformed in your finances. You cannot think like an employee and be a manager. You can't think like a customer and be a producer of a product. You have to think on the level of your living. And once you start to do that, it is your thinking, your mentality that separates you from the pack. You can't think like the people and lead the people. So those sorts of mentality makeovers, when you have them, embrace them and find the circle that understands the new you rather than the circle that reflects the old you.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a moment with more from Bishop T.D. Jakes. You're listening to Breathe Through It with Monique Pressley. Breathe Through It airs Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Come here each day to the Breathing Room where you can find information and inspiration to help you breathe better through life. Today's broadcast is being sponsored by Monique Pressley Ministries. Find out more about our ministries and ways you can support us by going to www.moniquepressley.com. Also follow Monique on Twitter and Instagram at Monique Pressley, or visit her public page, www.facebook.com/I am Monique Pressley. Keep breathing.
Touch 10 people and tell them there's a lion in me. There's a lion in me. There's a growling, snarling lion in me. There's a roaring in me. There's a fighting in me. There's a determination in me. There's a preacher in me. There's a survivor in me. I will come out of this. I must come out of this. I shall come out of this. Though he slay me, yet shall I... Tell 3 people something's about to happen. Something's about to happen. I've been closed in, but something is about to happen. I've been isolated, but something is about to happen. I've been lonely, but something is about to happen. I had to go through some changes, but something is about to happen. I've been through turmoil, but something is about to happen. I'm finally getting down to my core. I'm finally learning what matters. I'm learning who's with me and who's not with me. I'm learning who's for me and who's not for me. I'm learning what you mean when you say I got my back. I'm learning who does and who doesn't have my back. This is good for me. Can I take 30 seconds and just give God a praise for the dark place?
And we're back. If you're just joining us, we are in the Breathing Room today with Bishop T.D. Jakes, author of Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive. This is so exciting. I feel like I'm going to jump out of my seats. My listeners are not going to get any work done after this. Everyone's going to run off to follow their instincts. But, Bishop, before I let you go, there are 4 words that have been sticking with me, and I know if my listeners have not been hearing and watching on TV and have not yet gotten the book, I need you to explain this. Leave those turtles alone. What's the giraffe and the turtle story, Bishop?
Leave those turtles alone. They're always going to have time to comment. They're always going to be in your business. They're always going to give you a critique and say what you should have done and what you should have said and how you should have acted. Turtles have time to do that. And they are being honest on the level that they're looking. The giraffe is standing there, and right in between his legs, the turtles play. And the turtle is down there saying, if I was you. That doesn't make any sense. How can they such and such and such? Don't go down there and start arguing with the turtle. The turtle is eating grass. Giraffes eat from the tops of the trees. You're going to lose your opportunity, Nehemiah, if you come down off the wall and start responding to Sanballat and Tobiah. They have a perspective, but it's not your perspective. You can't lose your opportunity trying to win the alliance of a turtle. Leave those turtles alone.
Well, let me start here. First of all, I had a job working for the Washington Post writing op-ed pieces for their On Faith section, and I wrote 3 or 4 pieces, and when I wrote them and I put them on the WashingtonPost.com, the comments that came in, some of them were really good, but some of them were very, very brutal. Post, I decided to walk away from it. And Sally Quinn came to me, as she runs On Faith at that time for Washington Post, and she said to me, "Why did you stop writing?" I said, "Well, I didn't think I was very good at it because of the comments that came in at the end of the article." She said, "Oh, those are not our people. That's not our audience." She began to explain that the Washington Post's audience were largely people with master's degrees and above, and that is their core demographic. And she said, "You'll notice that a lot of people who write comments can't even spell."
That's right.
You allowed the people who wrote comments to dissuade you from reaching the audience of people who appreciated your reflective thought. From that experience, I set up an analogy in the book that I talk about the difference between giraffes and turtles. Mm-hmm. Giraffes eat from the tops of the trees, and the reason they eat from the tops of the trees is because they eat on the level of their vision. Turtles, who can occupy the same geographical location, be right at their feet, are also eating on the level of their vision. Their vision is to the tops of the grass, and that's where they eat from. And that's fine. Both species are doing what they were designed to do. The problem occurs when you are a giraffe and you allow yourself to be influenced by a turtle. The turtle is giving you advice based on his perspective, but with your neck and your ability to reach higher, you cannot always allow people to advise you or critique you who have never done what you are doing. So when I say stay away from the turtles, you cannot explain a giraffe decision to a turtle mentality. So
no, you can't.
People. You get what I'm saying? See, so many of us spend all of our lives trying to change the mind of the turtle that
my God,
miss the opportunity to run with the giraffes. And the reason I wrote the book, and I put it in the book, and you were exactly right, I went into so much more detail in the book than I did in my speaking presentation because these are complicated issues. That's number one, and it deserves a book in order to unfold it. Number two, you can't lead if you don't read.
That's right.
They only want to get things off of TV, and they say, "Oh, I got it." You're fooling yourself. You have to read. You have to.
That's right. That's right. And then you so much more, you don't give a chance for your own revelation if the only thing that you're doing is counting on someone else who's read in order to give you the information. But that Leave Those Turtles Alone segment, it really has. It's just been life-saving, ministry-saving. I mean, the difference between when I heard it and where I am 5 months later is mind-blowing for me because people often say to each other, in my old life as a lawyer, we would say, well, you and I don't see things the same way. That would be a way to end the disagreement or the discussion. But what you taught me is, no, you and I are not even seeing the same things. We're not even, I'm looking at leaves at the top, you're in the grass at the bottom, you're right and I'm right. We're just looking at two different things. So I am so thankful for that. That is true revelation, Bishop Jakes.
It is so helpful. It seems to have really caught the imagination of the nation. I have written actually 38 books over my literary career, but I have never written a book that hit the Times list in the first week coming out of the gate, number one across the nation, because this is not just church people reading it. It is also CEOs and managers and people who are thinking about being entrepreneurs and people who are retransforming their thinking from being married and now the spouse is gone and they have to readapt to another environment. Anytime you have to make a change of habitat, you have to rely on your instincts to carry you into that new idiom of thought. And I'm so happy that instinct has become such a powerful tool. They're using it for staff development training. Pastors are using it for Bible class. People are using it at sororities. They're doing reading clubs and book clubs because it's time for the underdog to come over. It's time for the oppressed to stand up and be who you were created to be. And I think the onus is upon us. When Oprah Winfrey read the book, she said, I could have written this myself. We almost call this book What Successful People Know That They Won't Tell You. And the reason we did so is because there are certain things that you learn in the process of breaking out into who you are that are what I call transferable truths. They will fit other people as well. And I tried to put some of them in the book to give people clues so that they could instinctively transform into who they were created to be.
Well, Bishop Jakes, thank you. I'm one of the beneficiaries. I just want to take this time while you're here on the line and on the air to say you have been a blessing to my life for so many years that I just know that God has used you in order to bring something out of this little Texas girl. And I know because my father is Bishop Glenn A. Staples, you're grand to me. You're grand to the world, but especially grand to me. So I am thankful for everything God is doing in your life, and that we get to be here to see it and to be beneficiaries of it, that you haven't been selfish with it, but that you're sharing it with the world. So for whoever has not yet heard of this book or gotten it, please go to instinctthebook.com, and also you can follow Bishop Jakes on Twitter. You can follow him on Facebook. He's everywhere, and you need to know what this man has to say because his ear is to the mouth of God. Thank you so much, Bishop Jakes, for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Monique. I really appreciate doing the interview. And I want to say some people have been hitting me up at Twitter at Bishop Jakes, or they've been on Instagram with their comments to me, which is also at Bishop Jakes. And some of the problems they're saying they're having trouble finding the book. If they go to Barnes & Noble, they should be able to find it. If they go to Walmart, they should be able to find it. And they won't have to go through a delay time or a waiting period to get it. They can always go to tdjakes.org, and we will ship it to them. I just want to put the materials in their hand. I wanted to pour out what was given to me. I wanted to make sure that I left the next generation with the clues and the breadcrumbs that would lead them into God's purpose for their lives. Thank you for allowing me to share it with your audience. I always enjoy talking with you.
All right. God bless you, Bishop.
The more you form, the less you fit. And it's hard to be in a tight place when you were meant to be in a big place. You pace the floor. You're frustrated because I'm in a tight place. What used to fit doesn't fit anymore because I'm in a tight place. I got gifts and talents that don't fit my situation because I'm in a tight place. I'm too big to be in here. It was cute 5 years ago, but it's not cute anymore. It was a blessing 3 years ago, but whether the blessing is a curse right now because I've outgrown my environment. I don't know if I'm right or not, but the Lord told me if I would preach this, somebody in this room would be pacing in a cage that you're ready to get out of. Touch your neighbor and say, he's preaching to me. It's too small in here. I'm restricted in here. I'm tied up in here. I'm too big to be in here. I don't have the room to run. I don't have the people to grow. I don't have the ability to evolve. It's tight in here. They won't let me stretch. They won't let me move. They won't let me loose. I'm all tied up in this place. It's familiar, but it's frustrating. It's always been like this, but I don't like it. Oh, God, am I talking to somebody? I came to tell you there's a lion roaring down inside of you. Let me out of this cage. Let me out of this cage. Touch 3 people and say, let me out of this cage. Let me out of this cage. I've been in this cage too long. I've been tied up in here too long. I've been locked up too long. I can't run in here. I can't move in here. I can't grow in here. Slap your neighbor and say, this is your year. This is your year to come out of your cage. Lay aside the weight. Lay aside the sin. Lay aside the fear. Lay aside the poverty. You are coming out of your... I can't hear you. Let me hear the lions roar. Let me hear the lions roar. Let me hear. Let me hear.
This concludes another broadcast of Breathe Through It with Monique Pressley. Today's broadcast was sponsored by Monique Pressley Ministries. To find out more about our ministry and ways that you can partner with us, please go to my website, www.moniquepressley.com. Also, like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/I am Monique Pressley. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Monique Pressley. Thank you so much for your continuing support of this broadcast and of the work of our ministry. Until next time, keep breathing.